All right, what's up, Dragon Brood? We actually ended up with a lot of more cards for March of Machines than I thought we were going to have on day 2. So we're going to hop right in. We did another stream where we actually went over all the cards, so I'm going to share that here with you now. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. I'll catch up with you on the backside. Non-English, obviously, so I'm going to read the translation from MTG Nexus here. So we've got Close the Circuit. It is a 6 mana instant. It has Convoke, which means you can tap creatures to reduce casting costs. You may cast sorcery spells this turn as though they had Flash. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell twice. Wow. So this is interesting, right? Because you can make it significantly cheaper by tapping creatures. You still need another spell to play behind it. But if you do have it, you get to 3 copies of it effectively, because you get the spell and then the 2 copies. So, man, this feels like if there's some combo-y thing that can use token creatures or something, this is probably pretty cool. But I don't know really where this goes. This is a card that, like, I'm personally willing to write off because it probably goes into a deck I'm not going to enjoy playing. But this is probably a lot better than I think it is. But yeah, I'm giving... This might be the first card I've outright given a thumbs down to, though. And I hope I'm wrong on this one, because the mechanics seems really neat. The design, I mean, but yeah, not for me. We have Kogla and Yidaro. This is a 6 mana 7/7, so 2 green, 2 red, and 2. For a legendary creature, Ape, Dinosaur, Turtle, which is a hell of a creature type. And when it enters the battlefield, you choose one. It gains Trample and Haste until end of turn. Or it fights target creature you don't control. Has an additional ability of 2 colorless, a red, and a green. You can discard this card, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment, and then you shuffle this card into your library from your graveyard, then draw a card. That's a lot that this card does. Alright, so for 6 mana straight up, you get a 7/7, so that's actually not that bad. And then you can have it be a hasty trampler, which is kind of awesome, right? Just comes into play, boom, gets after it. Or it can fight something when it comes into play. So that's pretty cool. So it's a removal card. I mean, it's 6 mana, but it's removal that gives you a 7/7. Or you can just discard it to destroy an artifact or enchantment. And the best part is, it's not even gone. It just gets shuffled back into your library, and you might get to use it again or draw it again. So yeah, this card's pretty sweet. This is the type of card that if you were going to play Gruul with like Luca, this is the type of card that would be great for that upper end, right? Just giving you lots of versatility and flexibility in one card. Like, this is pretty cool. Hitexugu and Kyrie. This is 2 colorless, 2 blue, and a black. So 5 mana for 5/4 flying ogre, demon, dragon. Man, these creature types are wild. When Hitexugu and Kyrie enters the battlefield, you draw 3 cards. Then put 2 from your hand on top of your library in any order. When this card dies, you exile the top of your library. Exile the top card of your library. Target opponent loses life equal to its mana value. If it's an instant or sorcery card, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. Wow. Okay. So 5 mana get you a 5/4 flyer. And then you get to draw 3, put 2 back. And then if this dies, you get to exile the top card of your library. And your opponent loses life. And if it's an instant or sorcery, you get to play it. Whew. I mean, it's kind of cool. We got a blue-black dragon. It's a 5/4. I don't know what to think about this card. This seems kind of cool. Like, I mean, it's not bad. I just don't know where I would play this over so many other cards, I think is the issue. Like, is there a world where I want this more than like Junji, maybe? Right? And it's not that many places I want Junji, but just like something to consider. You know, I'm trying to think of something comparable. Yeah, this is a card I like what the card's doing. And I also appreciate that it might just kill your opponent on the way out, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I don't know. This one might end up being a miss for me. I can't, other than just wanting to play it, I'm not sure where I fit it in. We have Knight Errant of Eos, which I guess we've had variants of this in the past. So 4 colorless and a white for 4/4 Convoke, which you can make this cheaper by tapping creatures. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal up to 2 creature cards with mana value X or less from among them, where X is the number of creatures that convoked to Knight of the Errant Eos. Put the revealed cards into your hand, then shuffle. Okay, so this is kind of neat. However many creatures you use to convoke, that's your X, right? Then you look at the top 6, and you can put things that cost that or less into your hand. It is a knight and not a soldier. We know soldiers are more important right now for standard. But that's not to say we don't get stuff for knights in Ixalan, potentially. Yeah, this is... I kind of like what this is doing, but you're also not attacking or doing something else if you're convoking just to a creature. But the upside is this could put 2 cards in your hand. This one's a tough one for me. I think this is one I will try to play with, though, because I can think of some situations where this might actually be all right. But yeah, this is an interesting card, to say the least. This is kind of cool, though. I like what it's doing, especially maybe on a turn where you think you're not going to finish your opponent, but the next turn they might sweep the board or something. You can load your hand up, still have a 4/4. I don't know. This one's going to take some thought. Even that strategy is not great for this type of card, but it's something. All right, getting into more stuff here. We have Blood Feather Phoenix, a colorless and a red for a 2/2 creature Phoenix, which is probably going to be returned from the battlefield type effect. You have flying. It can't block. Whenever an instant or sorcery spell you control deals damage to an opponent or a battle, you can pay a red. If you do, return it to the battlefield from your graveyard, and it gains haste until end of turn. This is one of the better Phoenixes, actually. I can dig this. It's a 2-mana 2/2. Doesn't have haste or anything, but like if it dies, it's pretty easy to get back. Like shoot your opponent, pay an extra 1, it comes into play. Or shoot a battle, it comes into play. You know, same difference. But yeah, this is pretty strong. Like this might be good enough to fit into some older formats, depending on the type of burn decks or Phoenix decks or whatever people are playing. But like this is cool. This is actually a pretty neat little card. Errant and Giada. I don't remember who Errant is. That's strange. But Errant and Giada. Colorless, blue-white, 2/3. Human angel. Flash, flying. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast spells with flash or flying from the top of your library. Actually, Errant, I remember now. I remember who Errant is. Yeah, this card's actually just decent. It's a 3-mana 2/3 flyer. It has flash. You can always have the extra information of what's on top of your library. If there's instants or flying on top. Well, that's weird. Oh, spells with fly. Okay, yeah, sure. So, flash or flying on top of your library you can play. This is fine. Like, if you wanted to play blue in an angel deck, now there's finally a reason to. That you have a blue angel, plus you actually can play angels off the top of your library, which is pretty neat. So, yeah, this is solid. I don't have anything terrible. Like, what I like about this card is it's not going to be like some of the other combined legends where you just throw them into decks. This one, I feel like you have to build with this card in mind. Not necessarily have to build around it, but you want to build with this card in mind while you're building. And that I'm kind of always in favor of. Tribute to the World Tree. 3 green, so green, for an enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card if its power is 3 or greater. Otherwise, put 2 +1/+1 counters. What? Okay. All right. I needed to stretch that out because we're gonna go on a rant on this card. This card. Wow. So every creature is gonna either get you a card or come in with 2 counters. So if it's not 3 power, it's gonna be 3 power or bigger, right? It's gonna be 3 or 4, and there's no rider on tokens, so you can just make infinite tokens that are basically gonna be 3/3s if you want to do that. Or it's not even, there's no restriction. It's not even once a turn like they've been doing. So this is any creature, token or non, any number of times in a turn. This card's like, I don't, what? This is, I don't even, like, honestly, I'm going to try to get my hand on 3 or 4 of these because I have like 3 commander decks this goes in right now. But like, does every does every mono green or every, like, I don't even know if you have room for this in mono green because you have so many quality like 3 drops now after the card we saw yesterday. So like, I'm exasperated at this card. This card's ridiculous. This almost doesn't feel like a real Magic card. Like, now don't be wrong, I don't think it's busted. I don't think it's like that good. But just the solid quality you're going to get out of this card every time it's on the battlefield is ridiculous. This isn't going to win games on its own, obviously. It's not that level good. But just what it brings to your deck. And not only that, you can have multiples of these. So like if a 1/1 comes into play, it's going to be a 5/5 if you have 2 of these. Or if you play like a 3 or 4 power thing, then you're going to get 2 cards. Like this, I don't even know. I mean, at least it's 3 green, right? So it's going to be harder to cast. There's at least that. You can't just toss it into every like green, white, green, red, whatever deck. But like, oh man, I have so much. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm not trying to like oversell this card. I'm just trying to think of like, what do I not want to do with this card? Wow, this is nuts. So you get a 2/5 Scrap Gorger now. Yes, correct. You would have a 2/5 Scrap Gorger because it's a 0/3, comes into play, gets 2 counters. Like this is like this card just makes me smile. That's all I can say. Like this card is just like I'm gonna hate playing against. I like this card so much that I'm gonna hate playing against it because your opponent's gonna have either constantly big creatures or constant stream of cards in their hand. Like, either one of those things is bad. You know what I mean? Yeah, this is, like, get your enchantment removal ready. That's all I can say. Okay, City on Fire. 5 and 3 red, so 8 mana. This obviously, okay, yeah, it has Convoke. That was going to be my first thought with that cost. It's an enchantment. If a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals triple that damage instead. Oh, my goodness. Okay, we get one of these cards in red. It feels like about every 2 years there's some thing that doubles or triples damage. So this isn't that unreal. 8 mana is a lot. Like, sure, you can convoke it down to, who knows, maybe 4 or 5 mana, realistically. But I'm not sure how many of these you're going to play versus the amount of burn you're going to be running. And do you really need to triple the damage when you can already play stuff like the red one that like any of your spells deal an additional point? Mechanized Warfare, right? Like, do you really need this? Plus, you're going to be having to tap creatures to take a turn off to do this thing instead of attacking. So, I don't know. This one, while neat, if you have some way to trick this into play or some fancy commander thing that can just put, you know, enchantments into play or whatever, it's probably neat for that, but for 60 card Magic, it's probably not that good. We have Into the Fire. 2 colorless and a red. It's a sorcery. You choose one. Into the Fire deals 2 damage to each creature, planeswalker, and battle. Or you put any number of cards from your hand onto the bottom of your library, then draw that many cards plus 1. So you get a mini Wheel of Fortune for yourself, or you get to deal 2 to everyone. This is actually just a reasonable card. Like, if you get to a point where the 2 damage doesn't really matter, you can just get rid of some cards in your hand and draw that many plus 1. Or you use it to pick off a bunch of tokens. Or, lately, a bunch of little guys in the toxic decks. So, like, this is actually pretty reasonable. Not a lot to really say about this card. It's pretty straightforward. It's just going to be conditional on what you end up playing against in the metagame. Hoarding Broodlord. Those words don't really go together, because a Hoardling is small and a Broodlord's obviously the Broodlord, so kind of weird. Or I guess maybe it's a small thing that will eventually become the Broodlord, I guess is what they're trying to say. 5 and 3 blacks, so Convoke again for a 7/6 dragon. So 8 for a 7/6 flying dragon. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for a card. You exile it face down, then you shuffle. For as long as that card remains exiled, you can play it. Spells you cast from exile have Convoke. This is kind of a neat card. I don't know how we're getting it cheaply or cheaper to where we really care. But if you do, I mean, you just tutor up a card that you want, and then it's safe because it's over in exile. So that's kind of cool. If you have a way to flicker this or put it back into play, reanimate it or something, you do get to trigger this again. So that's kind of cool. So I like that. I'm just a little concerned about the casting costs. I mean, we have so many other quality things in black where you're talking about Obliterator, Shieldred, Invoke Despair, the Archfiend of whatever, right? Like, you have all these other quality cards at 4 and 5 mana. I don't know if you can even justify playing this, at least in 60 card Magic, but I like what it does. I just don't know if it's ever going to make its way and be a reasonable player in any significant deck. But yeah, that last one says hoarding and not hoardling. Y'all are correct. I misread that. All right, so we have Invasion of Muruganda. I don't even know where this is. I'm assuming this is somewhere in Ixalan based on the artwork and the dinosaurs. But this card says, as it enters the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. That creature then fights up to one target creature you don't control. So, pretty straightforward. You pay 5 mana, you get a +1, you get to fight something. That's kind of expensive. Now, granted, this is an uncommon, but it is kind of expensive for that effect, because you're just getting to fight a thing. However, you could also fight a thing that would be in the way of you eventually getting to attack the battle. So there is that. The backside says it's a Primordial Plasm. A 4/4 at the beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature gets +2/+2 and loses all abilities until end of turn. I don't even know if I want that. Like, I mean, you could turn something of your opponent's off, but you're giving them +2/+2. At the beginning of a combat on your turn, another target. I mean, you could pump your own things and they lose their abilities. Yeah, I don't know. I get it that this is an uncommon, but this is just not one I'm probably wanting to play, honestly. We have Invasion of Arcavios. Again, I don't know where this is based on the artwork. I have no clue. But when this enters the battlefield, search your library, graveyard, and or outside the game for an instant or sorcery card you own. Reveal it and put it into your hand. If you search your library this way, shuffle. So, another tutors, you play it, get to search for something. Cool. Then the backside, Invocation of the Founders. When you cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand, you may copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copies. You know, the backside of this is pretty baller. The downside is that the front side is a 7 loyalty to try to get rid of, and it costs 5 mana. So, like, I get it because the backside's so strong. I just don't know if it's worth the investment. You're going to spend 5 mana for a thing you may never even realize other than getting to tutor, which, don't get me wrong, getting to tutor is not bad, especially if it's even like a control deck or something where maybe you're going to go tutor up a Farewell or something for the next turn. Like, kind of makes sense. But, yeah, I don't know. That's a difficult one. I'll probably get beat by this card at some point, but I'm not really feeling it. Invasion of Segovia. When it enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 blue Kraken creature tokens with trample. Alright. That's pretty straight up. The backside. Non-creature spells, it's a 3/3. Non-creature spells you cast have Convoke. At the beginning of your end step, untap up to 4 target creatures. Whoo! And the front side's only 3 to cast and 4 loyalty to kill. This one could be actually pretty reasonable. You do get 2 token creatures out of it. So worst case scenario, you paid 3 to get 2 1/1s, which isn't stellar, but at least you got something reasonable. You get to the backside, which is fairly easy to do because it's only 4. There's things that remove some counters and stuff as well to make that reasonable. Then you get a 3/3 body that also lets you untap creatures every turn. So that's actually pretty good. Yeah, this one might be sneaky playable. I think it's easy to look and go like, you're just getting a 3/3, you're getting untap some things, but that basically means you can attack with significant creatures and still untap them or reuse abilities or whatever else. So yeah, I think this one might get some play. Also, because it's only 4 loyalty and it's easy to flip. All right, we have Invasion of Kaladesh. I do know where Kaladesh is. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. This is a red and a blue for a 4 loyalty. And then the back is an X4 flying vehicle. Its power is equal to the number of artifacts you control. It has a crew of 1. This isn't god awful or anything, but like the backside's not great. Like the front side's cool. It's only 2 mana. You get a flying Thopter, so you can probably flip this at some point with only being 4 loyalty. But I mean, do I really care to have an X4 vehicle? Probably not. Like this one's one I feel like there may be a place for it, but I'm just kind of like, like we did some stuff. Yeah, I kind of feel the same way, Dr. J. Like it's there's a lot of stuff going on here, but the end result is you get an 0-4 effectively. Like I'm not into that. Yeah, exactly. And you sometimes just want to attack face and not a battle. That's what I'm saying. Like the battles you're going to end up playing need to be significant enough that when you get the backside, they matter, right? Because you're giving up some aggression toward the opponent to at least threaten the battle. Now, your opponent can still block and all that, but still, this doesn't feel like it's worth all that work, sadly. This one is Invasion of Moag, which is another one I don't know where it is, but the colors look familiar. Invasion of Moag enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, and it has loyalty 5. So that's actually fine for 4 mana, 2 colorless, green, white. The backside, though, is Bloom Wilder Dryads. They are 3/3, ward 2. At the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. This is okay. I mean, not ridiculous, but just okay. I mean, depending on what you have set up, being able to put a +1/+1 counter on everything is kind of cool. Being able to get a creature that you can also put a counter on something every turn and it has ward is kind of neat. Again, I don't know if this was like a 4/4, I think I would be more interested because you are having to deal with the 5 loyalty on the front side to get to this after you've already spent 4 mana. So I'm kind of like, now what I do like about it is if you have some deck that cares about +1/+1 counters or whatever, maybe like the deck I played in Explorer not that long ago with the hardened scales and whatever, like this could be a card that maybe goes in there. That could be pretty nice. But outside of some very particular decks, I don't know if this is going to get a lot of play. Invasion of Ergomon. When it enters the battlefield, you get a treasure. Then you can discard a card. If you do, you get to draw a card. It has loyalty 5. Man, the backside of this better be good. It's a 3/4 trample. When it enters the battlefield, you can discard a card. If you do, search your library for a land or a battle card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Okay. If there was something that ends up caring about battles particularly, then this could be a pretty key part of that, because then you're just like cycling, it comes into play, you get another battle, try to kill that battle, But a 3/4, all right. It's only 2 mana on the front side, which is nice. You do get a treasure, so you kind of ramp your deck, and you get the option of discarding card to draw a card. So even just from a utility standpoint, it might be playable in some builds, even if you don't flip it very often. So I like that aspect of it, of just being able to get the little bit of ramp action and filter your hand a little bit, or even seed stuff into your graveyard, potentially, depending on what you're playing, right? So yeah, I don't mind this. This one, at first, I kind of wanted to knock it, but the more I think I've talked myself into, this card could have some uses, because it has a bunch of utility to it, even though the creature on the backside is just okay. Okay, apparently there was more that got previewed after we made yesterday's video, so I'm going to cover those as well. So we have Sword of Once and Future. It's like all the other swords, 3 mana to cast, 2 to equip. Get +2/+2. This one gives protection from blue and black. Whenever creature deals combat damage to a player, surveil 2. Then you may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell would be cast from the graveyard, exile it. Hey, that's... This is cool. Yeah, it's like all the swords. I think this is just solid. And quality, that you can just play your cheap spells from the yard, which likely end up with you getting to kill something or bounce something or whatever again in current standard. So yeah, this is all right. I mean, no surprise though. I expect the sword would be decent. All right, we've got Realmbreaker, the Invasion Tree. Oh, did they infect the World Tree? Maybe, is that what's going on here? I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, it's 3 colorless for a legendary artifact. 2 colorless, tap it. Target opponent mills 3 cards. Put a land card from their graveyard onto the battlefield tapped under your control. It gains if this land would leave the battlefield. Exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. Or you can pay 10 and tap it. Sacrifice Realmbreaker. Search your library for any number of Praetor cards and put them onto the battlefield. Wow, that's cool. So if you just wanted to play a Praetor theme deck, you can just put a pile of Praetors down. And you're going to get mana faster by milling your opponent and putting their lands into play. Like, I like how this card is built. Like, you spend a couple turns milling the opponent, ramping up each turn or whatever for 2 mana. And then when you have 10, you're like, okay, and now here comes the whole team or whatever, right? This is cool. This is cool. I don't know if it's any good, but it's fun. So we have Quintorius, Lore Master. Oh, wait, is this the elephant from Strixhaven? So it's 3 colorless, white, red, 3/5, vigilance. At the beginning of your end step, exile target non-creature, non-land card from your graveyard. Create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. You can pay a white, red, and colorless. Sacrifice a spirit. Choose target card exiled with Quintorius. You may cast that card this turn without paying its mana cost. If that spell would be put into a graveyard, put it on the bottom of the owner's library instead. Wow, this card has a lot going on with it. All right, so you're paying 5 to get a 3/5 that has vigilance. Then at the beginning of your end step, you can exile a card from your graveyard, which is what has to be a non-creature, non-land. So a spell from your graveyard. A non-permanent spell, I guess. Well, no, because I guess it could be an artifact. All right, cool. Just non-creature, non-land. And then you create a spirit. But then you can sack a spirit to cast that card. Mana without paying its cast. If that spell would be put into the graveyard, you put it on the bottom of your owner's library. So if it's a spell, it doesn't go right back to the graveyard. So you can do it again. It goes on the bottom of the library. But I guess if it's a permanent, it just comes into play with no issues. Because it says that spell will be put into a graveyard. I wonder if it gets marked as though when it dies, it gets shuffled back in. Not totally clear on that part. But the card's neat. I don't know if it really gets played in standard, because for 5 mana, it kind of still takes a bit of work. But in general, the card's kind of cool. All right. Chrome Host Seedshark. 2 colorless and a blue for a 2/4 flying Phyrexian shark. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, incubate X, where X is the spell's mana value. Okay, so if you're playing incubate themed thing, where you make the 0/0s that come out with some number of counters, then you pay 2 to flip them. Like, this could be something. I mean, it's a 3 mana 2/4 flyer, which isn't bad, and it does have reasonable upside of just producing extra bodies anytime you play a spell, which could be counter something, incubate something during your end step, pay to flip it. Now I'm getting to attack with whatever, right? So, yeah, this card, I don't think you're just going to put it into any regular blue deck or blue-white deck, but could be something you play in something particularly themed around it, and could probably do some neat things. Also, could be kind of fun in multiples, actually. Surrak and Goreclaw. 6 mana for a 6/5, human bear, trample. Other creatures you control have trample. When another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and it gains haste. Wow. Wow. I don't know if green wants another 6 mana thing, but if you're gonna get one, this one ain't bad. Like 6 mana for a 6/5 that gives everything trample, and then if things come into play later, they get +1/+1s and have haste. Like, or if you had a way to ramp up to this, could be kind of cool. But yeah, this is a pretty sizable body to contend with. Could be a real problem. This is neat. I don't know if it's any good. It's probably not that good, all things considered, because when you're talking about green decks, we're already looking at a bunch of other cards you're going to try to squeeze in there, and your upper end's probably going to be like Defiler still, maybe even the Silverback or whatever. But if you wanted to try one of these in your deck, I don't think it's the worst thing. Voldarian Thrillseeker, 2 colorless and a red for a 1/1 backup 2, which means you can put the counters on this, or you can put 2 counters on something else. And then they gain this ability, which is a colorless, sacrifice this creature. It deals damage equal to its power to any target. Oh, that's cool. So you pay 3 mana, get a 1/1, or 3/3, your choice. But if you put it on something else, you can sack that big thing, if you have some other big thing, that could kill the opponent. Actually, it's any target, too, so you can fling it at a creature or something, or a planeswalker. Yeah, this card's kind of cool. There has to be some upside to this card, because the ability is super cheap. Just paying 1 to sacrifice a thing, the card itself is reasonable at 3 mana. If you have nothing else, it's just a 3 mana 3/3 that can fling itself, so that's kind of cool. Like, yeah, I'm kind of into this. Like, it's not outstanding, but I might try 1 or 2 in some decks. Especially if I'm playing something that's creature heavy, but you still want some finishing damage. This could probably make the cut. Orthion, Hero of Lavabrink. 3 colorless and a red for a 3/3, and he has a full text box. Alright, Human Soldier. Colorless and a red, you tap it. Create a token that's a copy of another target creature you control. It gains haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Activate only as a sorcery. Or you can pay, 9, 6 colorless and 3 red to tap, create 5 tokens that are copies of another target creature you control. They gain haste. Sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. Activate only as a sorcery. Whew, alright, so this is a 4 mana 3/3 that you can pay 2 and tap and copy something till end of turn, or you can pay 9 and copy a thing 5 times until end of turn. Yeah, just seems fine. That's kind of all I can say about this. Like, I'm not super again, this feels more like a better commander card than 60 card. But, you know, to have one of these in commander where you can copy some dragons or something with cool ETB triggers, I don't hate it. It's pretty neat. Terror of Towashi, 2 colorless, black, 4/3, Phyrexian Ogre. It has Death Touch, and whenever it attacks, you can pay 3 colorless and a black. When you do, return target creature card from the graveyard to the battlefield. It's Phyrexian in addition to its other types. Wow, so this is the second quality reanimation creature that we've seen, not even a spell. But this is pretty solid. It's a 4 mana 4/3 with Death Touch, so your opponent may not even really want to block it. But if they don't block it, then they're risking you getting something out of the graveyard. I actually dig this card. Again, I don't know where it goes, but if I'm playing something that's big bodies or some type of reanimator deck, this is cool to have like a quality creature that isn't really even the thing you're reanimating, just solid. And I also appreciate that they balanced it by making it a 4/3 instead of a 4/4. So there's some more realistic scenarios where your opponent could block and kill this instead of having to just chump block it every turn. Interdisciplinary Mascot. Wow. 6 colorless, blue. Convoke. Now, why did blue get off the hook? Because the other things that cost 8 were 3 colored mana. Just saying. Convoke, ward 3. So this is going to be hard to kill. When the mascot enters a battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 1 of them into your hand, and the rest of the bottom of your library in a random order. And it's 5/5, no flying, no nothing. I don't get it. Like, this doesn't feel great as a rare. Like, even if I tap, let's say 4 creatures, and I play this for 4, I get a 5/5, which is cool. It's a sizable body. And then I get a card from my top 4 into my hand. But yeah, I feel like I'm like, the fact that this is a rare makes me feel like I'm missing something to do with this card. And y'all can tell me if I'm wrong, but this doesn't even feel like something I want to consider putting into a deck. Like, I feel like we just went through hitter, and like, oh, this is good, or at least I can play this in commander. And then I got to this card, and I just, like, I don't get it. Yeah, I'm not feeling this one at all. Like, not in the rare. If this was an uncommon, I probably wouldn't care. But as a rare, this feels real bad. Essence of Orthodoxy. 3 colorless, white, 3/3, flying. When Essence of Orthodoxy or another Phyrexian enters the battlefield under your control, incubate 2. Ooh, that's neat. So if you do play a Phyrexian themed deck, you can just incubate every time something comes into play. Alright, I mean, it's 5 mana for a 3/3, so it's not like the best thing, but it's kind of cool. I don't mind it. This is kind of neat. Ah, Monastery Swiftspear. No, not Monastery Mentor. Swiftspear is the red card. Monastery Mentor. 2 colorless and a white for a 2/2 human monk prowess. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, creatures create a 1/1 monk creature token with prowess. Now, this card existed before. It was pretty solid previously. There is something I want to point out about this card, though. That you have this. We have the red-blue one, right? That makes 1/1 artifact creatures. And you have Jaya. So you have several things that care about non-creature spells, making prowess things, whatever. Like, those could be the beginnings of a deck. Just saying. Don't know if it is, but something to consider. Grafted Butcher. Colorless and a black for a 2/2. Phyrexian Samurai. When Grafted Butcher enters the battlefield, Phyrexians you control gain menace until end of turn. Other Phyrexians you control get +1/+1. 3 colorless and a black. Sacrifice an artifact or creature. Return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery. This card's pretty sweet. If we were thinking about building Phyrexians as a theme, we're now seeing cards that care about other things being Phyrexian. This wants to pump other Phyrexians. And you can sacrifice artifacts or creatures, which means you can sacrifice a blood token, a treasure, whatever. Get this back into play. I'm into it. This card's pretty neat. I like this card. I like what it... Again, you're not going to play it in just any deck. But if you have something that cares about other Phyrexians, this is pretty good. We have Zergo and Erjo tie. 2 colorless, blue, red, white. So 5 mana for a 4/4 flying haste. It has hexproof as long as it enters the battlefield this turn, so that's cool. You can play it and attack, and your opponent can't kill it. Whenever 1 or more dragons you control deal combat damage to a player or battle, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library. You may return 1 of those dragons to its owner's hand. So you could reset or basically rebuy a dragon as well. If you either want to protect it or it has an ETB trigger, that could be pretty cool. I can't think of any in Standard that I would care about doing that with right now, but it's cool as an option. Yeah, this is just a neat card. I mean, you connect, you get to look at the top couple of cards of your library, you get to put something in your hand. It's a 4/4 flying haste that has its own protection for 5 mana. Solid. Not gangbusters insane, but solid. And it can fit into some decks that are trying to be aggressive in Jeskai, which is something we don't really have a lot of right now, which is kind of nice that opens up the door for something else. Guardian of Gearport. 2 colorless and a white for a 3/3 angel. That's cool. Another angel that's cheap to cast. Flying, when it enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 other target creature or artifact you control. Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Oh, well, this is kind of cool. So you get a 3/3 for 3 with flying, and you can blink something on your side to reuse the ability. Now, admittedly, there's not a lot of that right now that we have, but this could be an angel that could work potentially outside of an angel deck, and just happens to be a decently costed card with upside, which could be pretty cool. Yeah, this is just solid. Like, nothing crazy. It's just like, if you're looking for a tool, this gives you the option of having the tool. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you just need cards like that. Like, this is just solid. It's well costed. Not much else to say about it. It's just decent. I swear, I've not seen these cards, y'all. These are all new to me. Transcendent Message. X and 4 blue for Convoke. Oh, draw X cards. Instant. Alright, fair enough. Like, you know, anytime there's a mechanic, blue's going to get something that includes draw a card. This is Borborygmos and Fblthp. 2 colorless. Green, blue, red. So 5 mana for a 6/5, which is already pretty good. When this card enters the battlefield or attacks, draw a card, then you can discard any number of land cards. Alright? When you discard 1 or more cards this way, Borborygmos and Fblthp deals twice that much damage to target creature. You can pay a colorless and a blue. This card, put it into your library third from the top. You know, this is actually all right. Like, it has a lot of words, right? It reads weird, but 5 mana for a 6/5. Now, it doesn't have evasion or anything else. It's just a big body, so you're paying 5 for a 6/5. But when it ETBs or you attack, you get to draw a card no matter what. And then you can discard lands and possibly pick stuff off, right? Now, it does says that damage can only be dealt to a creature. So you can't deal it to a planeswalker, can't deal it to an opponent. But the fact that in a lot of cases, you might actually get to play it, draw a card, and then attack, draw a card, right? So you might be getting a 6/5 creature and 2 cards for this for 5 mana, which is all right. And it does have some upside that you could potentially tuck it if your opponent tried to kill it. So, I don't know. This is actually okay. I think this is fine. Again, gonna dominate 60 card Magic? Probably not, but as a 1 or 2 of in some builds. Or if you're playing something that already plays, oh man, what's his name? The Jun card that, the Soul of Windgrace, right? Maybe something like that. Or you're playing this alongside Slowkirk or something. There's probably a deck in there somewhere with those cards. But this is cool. So just a few more battles to go over and then we're done. So we've got 5 colorless for 4 loyalty, Invasion of Ravnica. When it enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls that isn't exactly 2 colors. Ooh, so this is one almost anybody can play as just a removal card. And this is a non-land permanent, not even a creature. So you can get rid of a planeswalker, enchantment, whatever. As long as it's not exactly 2 colors. So I'm this is all right. Like, some decks might just play 1 or 2 of these. This is kind of cool. The backside, however, is a Guild Pack Paragon, a 5/5. Whenever you cast a spell that's exactly 2 colors, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a card that's exactly 2 colors from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This is kind of okay. Just being able to, like, remove a thing and then possibly get a 5/5 out of it. Like, I almost don't care if I'm casting something that's exactly 2 colors. That's just like bonus action here. Yeah, this would I be wrong to say this could end up being the most played battle? I mean, this could end up being that way. I don't know if that's true, but the fact that it's colorless and can just get rid of anything, for the most part, is actually pretty strong. The only way it does it is if the meta goes to a bunch of just 2 color decks, then it's going to lose a lot of its value, right? If a lot of the best cards are multicolor, it's going to be tough. But cool card. Invasion of Tolvada. Like, this is great because I'm constantly seeing places I didn't even know existed in Magic. But this is 3 colorless, white, black for 5 loyalty. When Invasion of Tolvada enters the battlefield, return target non-battle permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Non-battle permanent. So this is just a reanimation spell for anything. Now, okay, first off, it's not like we really needed that, because we already have too many people trying to, like, reanimate Atraxas and stuff right now anyway. Or play the Phyrexian portal or whatever it is, portal to Phyrexia. I want this to be worse than it is, just so we don't have to see a lot of it, but it's actually pretty good. Problem is, it's just, like, I think the reason I'm a little down is because I feel like this is going to go into some annoying decks. But the card's actually not bad. Let's see what the backside is, though. The Broken Sky. It's an enchantment. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and have lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, create a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with flying. Ooh, this is good. Like, the front side's very useful. The backside is really good. Like, you're getting 2/1 creatures with lifelink effectively. I mean, technically, all your creatures get +1/+1 lifelink, but you're making 2/1 lifelinkers every turn with flying. Like, and you probably got something reasonable back out of your graveyard with the front side, right? Like, this is cool. This is cool. Fondor one says, still don't understand how much damage the extra ability would do, though. Enter the battlefield, you draw and discard, then deal that much damage. Oh, I'm not sure. Oh, you're talking about a previous card. Gotcha. Oh, it does say creature tokens, but that's fine. You're still producing a 2/1 flyer with lifelink every turn. Doesn't change my opinion of the card at all. Like, This is really good. Again, I want it to be worse, but the card's actually really good. Like, this could almost be part of a strategy all its own. If you found a way to just play this, remove the counters even without attacking it, and then just make 2/1 flyers with lifelink every turn. Right? Like, that's, and in multiples even worse, right? Because now they're all additional +1 or whatever. And these aren't legendary. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So we have Invasion of Tarkir, and I know where that one's at. Cool artwork too. I don't know, like with the dragons going to war there. That's pretty neat. Colorless and a red, so very cheap to cast. For 5 loyalty. When it enters the battlefield, reveal any number of dragon cards from your hand. When you do, Invasion of Tarkir deals X +2 damage to any other target where X is the number of cards revealed this way. Well, if you want to play a dragon deck, this is obviously a card for you. Like, this is just another burn spell. Reveal a dragon, deal at least 3, could possibly deal more. Backside, though, Defiant Thundermaw, definitely a dragon. 4/4 flying trample. When a dragon you control attacks, it deals 2 damage to any target. Wow. Okay. Well, those are words on a magic card. Yeah. Wow. Okay. I'm into this. Like, even on the front side, if you think about it, you could actually play one, then play the other one to possibly just destroy the first battle by revealing some number of dragons. And then, wait a minute, does the front side say it just has to be to a creature? Or does it say damage to, nope, it says to any other target. Okay, so yeah, these could actually just be a 4 of in whatever deck you want to play them in, and they just load up on dragons and then just get some extra damage. Like, this is cool. I like this. I like this a lot. This is kind of neat. Oh my gosh, there were even more cards than I thought there was. So yeah, y'all let me know in the comments which of these you thought were the best. Which ones are you looking to put into decks? Which ones are you looking to see creators play with? I think that's actually pretty good too, because there are a lot of amazing cards early here in the preview season, which is a bit of a surprise. But if you missed part 1 with all the crazy stuff that we talked about, I'll put it right here.